meeting law requirements have been met through proper posting. We have a 10-item agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. The minutes from the previous meeting have been distributed. I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes as distributed.
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. IT Department update. Tim?
Is there a copy of the agenda somewhere? What else is on it?
IT
here you go.
update, maintenance update, discussion,
And
possible
so
action
security
on building
policy's down below.
security.
You're gonna get involved in two spots there, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was addressed somewhere in the agenda. I just didn't know that.
Security
Okay,
policy, you mean?
yeah.
Got it.
So we are prepping for moving into the new building with an effective date for some departments of January 8th. We've got multiple vendors and agencies in the building today and tomorrow, finishing up connectivity issues. We're working on I don't even know where to begin. The plans for migrating the actual staff, we've had inquiries from child support, courts, clerk of courts, everybody but the sheriff's office. They must already have a plan and aren't too worried about our involvement. But everybody else has made inquiries. We're letting them know that they can move equipment when they're done using it in this building. So if they don't have any use for it the remainder of the week, they can move it over to their location. They can even plug in power if they were so inclined into that device. We wouldn't necessarily require that, but they're not allowed to plug anything into the network as of yet. So our plan is to connect devices over the weekend. Our staff will be on site Saturday and Sunday, and we'll be making sure that all the phones in the courts and areas with state connections, their desktop phones are plugged in, and we'll test each one of them for functionality. Common area phones that are going to be added at the desks will be placed at that time. Jeremy, when is the inspection? I'm like, why are you parked back there? You should just we'll sit up front right away.
There's one happening today for the elevators. That should be happening shortly here this morning. Then there's one that starts tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning for occupancy. That one will run for a handful of hours as well. There's also the fire alarm inspection is happening today.
Mike,
The fire alarm, fire suppression stuff is getting inspected and certified today. So there's a bunch of stuff over the next 48 hours that's happening all at once.
so they're allowed to move personal items but not set up.
Yeah, you can make it into a generic office, just don't hang your pictures and stuff like that, which I've discussed with all the departments. Bring your stuff over. You're just not occupying the space. You're just filling the space with your stuff, essentially.
Okay. We have tested we have a single core network component over there, and then we've hung the switches that we anticipate we'll need in each closet. We do not have the documentation yet from the vendors regarding the network cabling, their locations, identification, and test results. We have the Wi-Fi in place. And aside from that, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to put it that way. I'm awash with detail, and I don't know that it's worth your time. Normally at this meeting, I would present you with the help desk information as to how many tickets we dealt with last year, but I haven't had time to run reports on that yet. You don't get my 2023 budget report until next month because some of the bills, they're invoiced for 2023, but they don't show up for me until early this month. So you'll have a detail next month on that. With regards to the old building, we're getting requests from Venture to identify various elements in the design for the remodel. That's ongoing, no issues there. But there are some issues on the connectivity of the buildings. One of them is a priority. Connecting the TV studio here to room A2003, which is that little room next to the new county boardroom, was dropped from the Justice Center project a couple years ago when the two projects were formally severed. So it's part of the remodel, but if you want to go live with the new county boardroom, we need that connection. And the vendor, Audio Architects, wants to get everything set up next Thursday, the 11th. I'm not sure that we're going to be able to meet that timeline. That's a little aggressive. So B&B's reached out about connecting the two spaces and where we would include that. I do have a little room in my FF&E budget. I don't know how much room, but I anticipate a fiber connection between those two would run about $3,200 tops, because that's what we recently ran strands for, so it shouldn't be too much. But we'll work with B&B and Samuels on figuring that connection out. What I would like is to work with B&B and Audio Architects. Audio Architects is subcontracting with B&B. They're providing all the AV tech, but in order to get my staff and the TV studio staff trained on all this stuff, I don't know that we're going to get properly educated on it prior to them severing the agreement. So I'll have to work with them to find out what we can get for support into the second quarter of this year, because I'm certain that we're going to have to revisit several issues on some of these systems. There's a lot of complexity in that new building, and we were hoping to have training on all of it prior to occupancy, but that's just not happening. So we'll continue to work on that, and I can report back as necessary. Is there any particular concerns regarding the Justice Center go live regards to technology that you want addressed?
I think, I don't have anything myself. Things are, from experience, things are going to pop up as we move into the building that will become issues, but we don't necessarily know what they are yet.
Okay.
And I only speak for myself. The rest of the committee can speak up if they have any questions.
Our primary focus for the remainder of the week into the weekend is making sure that that front desk security is set up and functional the way it needs to be Monday morning, so that they can control the elevators and control the things they need to control, since the jail will not be occupied. That is our number one priority. Number two would be getting the various departments connected and making sure that they're all functional before they come into work on Monday morning. Aside from that, things like printers, video solutions, fully functional Wi-Fi the way we intend it in the long term, that's all getting back burnered. As long as it's functional now, we're staying the way it is. We're not trying to get too extravagant. All right, so on to other stuff. Finalizing the RFP for the print services contract, which expires February 19th. Current contract holder is E.O. Johnson. They will be invited to respond to the RFP. I wrapped up the work with the consultant that we agreed to last spring. We are dropping down to 24 devices that are going to be under the services contract. Those are all going to be...
From where?
Well, we're currently at 66.
Okay.
The original intention was to drop down to 39, and we've shrunk that further. I'm not going to put desktop printers, for the most part, under service contract. We have approximately 35 to 40 reliable black and white desktop printers that can be brought out of storage, and we can just install them where they're needed. And if we discover through paper cut the tracking that they're not being used, then we'll take them away and tell them to go to a copier and pick up your prints. And if you need a desktop printer, why? We're going to keep pushing that issue, because this committee has said we're not going to continue to fund. We're not paying $15,000 a quarter for print services. We got to figure out a way to reduce that line item. I'm estimating that we should see a savings over 5 years in excess of $200,000 on this. But there will be some squawking invariably. There are some desks that we know are going to need elaborate desktop printer. In fact, we have 4 desktops. 3 of them are in Treasury because they have massive runs they need to do on occasion. The other big ones that are needed in the location aren't under the services contract. Paul's area has a couple printers that they pay services on. Various state connected departments have state connected printers that they have contracts through on their own. We're not involved with those. We will be replacing every one of the floor standing copiers in this contract. So, and then again, for maintainability and streamlining this, we're going to have 16 of the floor standing models will be identical. So no matter which one you go to in the building, it'll function exactly the same way, same page per minute, same functionality. So there's less of a training issue for your staff, and it's easier to maintain for the service contract. The one that will be different is going to be for UW Extension. So we'll have one on scene that has a large paper handling functionality. So we'll be putting that RFP out before mid-month. Expect responses before the end of the month, and then the contract going live on February 20th is the plan.
So those, you said that within the contract, we're gonna get new devices. Those are leased in the contract then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And then we're working out the terms on the RFP as to how we want that shaped. Do we want it to be real cost, or do we want it to be you pay $1 at the end of the contract and you own it? We're working through that. I want to make sure that we have the right response there, because we want to make sure that this investment can go on, and nobody wants to take on a service contract with somebody else's leftovers. So we have to think about long-term how we're going to address that. Yeah, and then as to those desktop black and whites, since I have so many of them, we'll just order toner for those as needed. We won't have those under a service contract. We will, we're still considering whether we want to connect them into PaperCut and pay for the subscription on that. But I found that the tracking what people are printing has actually been very helpful and reduces the amount of printing that goes on. So we're probably going to continue with that. But if one of those desktop HPs breaks down, it needs a new drum kit, we'll just have our recycler take it away, and we'll bring in set one down from storage and go from there, or eliminate it entirely, because you only print 20 pages a month, you don't need it. So that's the plan, and so be prepared for employee blowback, because they can't have their desktop printer anymore. But
Did your savings estimate include the less paper purchasing as well?
no,
So there's additional savings on top?
potentially, but you have to fix workflows and processes before you can do that. We still have a lot of paper flowing around the organization. Sheriff's Department hates trees, but it's not their fault. It's agencies above them that demand it, so someday. That's all I got for updates this morning. I probably have more. I'm a little bit frazzled this morning, so sorry.
Any questions for Tim? Jeremy?
So starting off the same as Tim, pretty much myself and my staff will be here the rest of this week, including the weekend, finishing, moving off anything that we need to help departments move. We've been helping the departments that are moving for the past couple weeks, starting to move their shelving units and anything else that we can help move. There's certain things, files and stuff that certain departments require themselves to move. But we'll be here for the remainder of that, plus setting up the rest of the building, plus trying to finish off the security access control of that other building. I've been working on that now for a couple of weeks. Adding each person individually into the new building, creating groups of doors, timers for the doors, changing the controls on the lighting system over there. We have two separate automated lighting control panels over there that control different areas of the building, so trying to learn how to set those up. Been going through trainings with each of these vendors. Yesterday I did the fire sprinkler system. Today I have the alarms, fire suppression for the IT rooms. I have some kitchen equipment, there's pretty much anything over there that's getting turned over to us. I got an 8-hour HVAC training in 2 weeks. I've got 16 hours of training for the electrical components of the building. I've done the generator training, the plumbing training, and then certifying some of my staff to train as we need to bring IT and whatnot up to snuff on some of their stuff, the room temperature controls, how to control the HVAC systems. So that's all ongoing here for the next 6 months, give or take, as we learn how everything works there. The exterior signage got installed earlier this week, so if you haven't seen that yet, when you drive by or when you leave, you can drive by the front of the building. It says the Trempealeau County Government Center on the flagpoles, as well as a few other minor exterior signages that go along with the sheriff's department and the jail. There's some things that I'm going to have to address fairly soon moving into the building that I was not aware of until it got completed earlier this week, but there's 2 sets of doors for the entrance of the building, a double set of doors, a vestibule, a double set of doors, and then when you leave, it's the same thing going out the other way. Only one door, one set of doors, and one door in each set has a handicap opener on it. So there's one door when you come in the building. There is not a handicap opener when you leave the building. And then, so it was stated, it's within compliance for ADA, but it still makes no sense to me, because as you leave the building, and again, if you guys, it'll be easier to see it, but you have to come out the exit and then go towards the, what's considered the entrance, to hit the button to open the door, but as you're leaving, the door that opens then blocks the button to open the next door. If you're in a wheelchair, it's not going to work all that well. It is in,
Of course it is.
it's something that I'm going to have to address. So I'm going to talk to automatic entrances and see if I can remove and reuse the ones that are currently on the existing entrance of this building and relocate them to that building. They're about 12, 14 years old, so we'll see how well they work, but that's something that's going to have to get addressed, and I'll do that outside of just not knocking Samuels, but it's going to be cheaper for me to go directly through the vendor than it is to go through Samuels to get to the vendor to get that taken care of.
Jeremy, I got a question quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any way we can get any compensation from Samuels for this? Because, I mean, that's a poor design. I mean, that should
But
have
it's
been
still,
caught.
it's within ADA compliance. There's one door, it's not even required to have one, but the one that's there,
They don't want you to have one to go out just to come in?
it's, they have a button on the inside. It's not throwing Samuels under the bus either, but that's a venture as an architect design.
Well, that's a man design, that, you guys just put it in.
That's just separate contract.
So that's, again, it's something that if I were to go through that process, that it's gonna cost me more to go through 3, separate people to get it done. So it's just something that, with hundreds of other things, it just doesn't correlate well to practical use as opposed to what you may not have found on the drawing. There's about 4 or 5 doors in the building that we had to change the way that the badge system works because of the way they were drawn and the way they function doesn't mesh with each other. So there's been a few changes that we've had to do with that. And kind of like Dan stated, there's going to be more and more things that we don't figure out until you've been in the building for a day, a week, a month, that it's not working the way that you intended
So
to.
Jeremy, what you're saying, let me regurgitate what I heard you say. It works. A handicapped person in a wheelchair would have to go out the first set of doors, wait in that vestibule area for the door to close, then push the button to be able to go out.
Yes.
So it's not something that we have to have done
It's not- it's-
immediately,
it's not
but
day
if Jeremy
one.
can work on it as he
Right.
can, whatever, and make it work, then that's obviously a practical thing to do.
Yes, it's something that needs to get addressed, but it's not something that needs to be addressed by Monday before the building opens.
We have a lot of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that stuff. Currently, too, over the past few weeks, I had a television antenna installed on the building so we can get rid of cable that feeds the jail. That'll remove that bill here once they move over. And I have anywhere they get between 41 and 19 channels which is plenty for the jail. I think 6 of them are a version of PBS, so they can learn, which is perfectly fine. They don't need most of the other stuff, and that'll save the county money in the long run. I don't have too much more. I have a lot more, but it's going to be much easier condensed in the next month. So like Tim stated, there's 100 other things that we've got going on right now, and everything is on track to move everybody in. Everything should function enough that everyone will be able to do their job. But again, there's going to be tweaking, changes, and stuff that in both buildings here for the next few months. So
Jeremy,
nothing catastrophic right now.
Fortunately, you have not had the opportunity to test the snow removal process of this new facility this year much.
Not much, no.
Do you anticipate having additional cost related to moving snow?
Not
with a
right now.
dump
The
truck
only
or anything?
area for me of concern is the alley between the jail Sally Port and the houses, because it goes directly to Hobson Street. That section of Hobson Street is narrower than where we park, but I've already worked with the city. If I need to, I can start shifting it into that parking lot across the road and staging it into their piles, and the city will take care of it from there. But most of my stuff is going to get staged, and then later through the morning will get picked up with a bucket and dropped into that retaining pond in the middle of the parking lot. Again, we've only had a couple of dustings, and it's mostly only been on the weekends, so I'm not super concerned quite yet. But now if we start getting a 6, 7, 8-inch dump in one day, that'll be a challenge. But we've got the equipment, and we went over it with the staff as myself and my team the other day, kind of setting priorities of what goes where. A few other problems that we have is some of the, like the sheriff's garage, the pitch and the grade on that is so extreme that my plow truck I can't get it in the garage with the plow on it because it's too steep. The exit from the alley that runs from Hobson to Dewey Street, the pitch on that is extremely high too. So my bracket of my plow catches on that. The same with the brush on the front of the skid steer because it's at such a extreme angle. So a lot of that stuff, that's what we walked going, what's going to be done by hand, what needs to be done by equipment. So, but yeah, thankfully, we haven't had to worry about that too much quite yet.
So we'll be able to play King of the Mountain in the pond out there.
In the pond outside, yeah. We might, if depending on the season, we may have snow in there through August, or as much snow as I'm gonna have to stage in there. But other than that, like I said, right now, coming this weekend, the last thing that we're gonna end up doing is changing the, as I started earlier, the badging and the security process, because this weekend will be when I shut off the readers on this existing building, and then everyone come Monday will start using the new entrance over there.
And these work? These old
They
ones?
do work.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotten about 80% of the 300 and some odd people added to that building. That'll open the doors that are required. Like Paul's badge, when he comes in the morning, his will open the entrance door as it sits right now to get him where he needs to go, but it'll only do the 1 or 2 doors in the new facility, but it will still continue to do everything over here that is required.
And then how about on the timing of individual badges? Have you been able to?
I have, yes. So the way that it was left before was after hours would be you're buzzed into the facility, but that won't start until the jail is staffed, because that's where when you hit the button inside, it goes to the control room in the jail that they can see who's there and open the doors. But until we have someone at that station 24/7, the badges will work as they do right now.
That makes sense.
I've got nothing else right now unless you have something specific for me.
The frosted glass.
Oh, I get, yeah. So, it was brought to our attention earlier this week that the Cora room, that the new county boardroom, the glass wall that sits behind it that has an etched photograph into that, was not meeting standards, essentially, is what that was. So it did not look appropriate, but as you were standing in the decor room and you looked out, there's that void, that landing that's unused above the entranceway that did not call for paint, because you should not be able to see that. It's not because of the frosted glass. So executive decision-ish between myself, Tim, and then conferring with Dan is we just asked them to just go ahead and frost it right now. There's no design, no picture that's going into that. We will address that at a later date, but we needed something in there now, preferably before Monday, and just a straight frost with no design in it was needed to be addressed and needed to be taken care of now. So property was aware of why, when you come in, why it's not gonna have a design in it, that's why.
Any other questions for Jeremy? Judge?
I don't really have questions for Jeremy, but just generally to the committee, I'd just like to, I guess, express some discontent about the timing of this, how everything's gone. Months ago, we were told that we'd be able to get in and that we'd have substantial completion by the end of October, beginning of November. We'd be able to slowly move our items in. And here we are in the 11th hour, and we have our state court system IT folks here that was planned to be yesterday, today, and tomorrow to install all of the IT equipment, move the server, and that was previously planned. And then I find out yesterday that the elevators aren't going to be working and won't be working. Didn't work yesterday and won't work today till later today. And so there was literally a group of people helping hand stuff up the stairs, the IT equipment that the court IT was going to install. And it's just not ideal. And I'm not blaming Jeremy or anybody. I'm just saying, why wasn't this done ahead of time? It almost feels as though there isn't anybody coordinating or thinking about these things, and it leaves our office, which we had a plan months ago to have this time frame set aside for moving, and we don't have an elevator, which is a pretty big deal. In addition, we have an inspection for occupancy on Friday. Well, we were told that we were allowed to get our stuff in there, and again, I don't know why was that pushed back to the 11th hour, but it puts us in a position where we can't really fully get in there. It just really seems like last minute, and we're really kind of crossing our fingers and hoping everything works when we turn the system on Monday, rather than having the time to do this ahead of time. And there wasn't any communication, to me anyway, to say, well, why don't we move back the opening day? And obviously we have court schedules we got to deal with and planned ahead of time. But again, it is what it is at this point. I understand. I think later today the elevator is going to be available and we'll work with this. But there's been a handful of things that are late. We didn't get in there when we thought we were going to be able to get in there, and we're making it work, but it's less than ideal. And I guess wanted the committee to know. I just expressed my discontent on some of the timing of this. It's really made us have to scramble and deal with, like I said, carrying equipment upstairs rather than using an elevator. And there just wasn't really good communication about that as well. That's another concern, is we have to hear about things. Well, why isn't there better communication of saying, hey, just so you know, next week, we have to have this inspection or what have you. And so I'm just a little discontented about how everything's going to be. We'll make it work. We'll get it done, but it's not how I thought it would go.
Thank you for your information. I think generally on a project this size, this seems to have some issues more than a normal changeover, but no excuses, explanation. The situation surrounding this project have all, in my mind, conspired to generate issues such as this. And I don't know, I think COVID really threw a stick in the spokes of this whole project in that when certain equipment and materials gets delayed, it's not just that issue. It has a snowball effect that it affects many other aspects of the whole project. And I think, you know, in my own opinion, generally, humans as a species are poor at communicating. It takes extra efforts to deal with that shortcoming that we have when it comes to communication. In my career here, which has spanned several decades, communication has been an issue that pops up repeatedly, the lack thereof, whether it never happens or it's inaccurate. I appreciate the tolerance and the patience that everybody involved in this has had. We need to continue with that because we're not done. And I appreciate your concern and your patience as we move forward. We'll do what we can to get things done. We do the best we can with what we've got. I would appreciate you continuing to keep us informed as we move forward.
Is there a plan B for Monday for the judge and the courts in case we have non-functional systems? What is the plan?
Well, to date, what I've been told is that everything can be delayed except the courts because they have things scheduled. Now, is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, we have court scheduled on the 9th, on Tuesday. And I guess that's some of my frustration is that if we knew that there was going to be potential issues and on a construction project, there are. But if we'd have known that, at no point was I told that, hey, things are looking like we're not going to be able to get this done in time. Can we move that opening date? I don't recall anybody saying that to me. And we have flexibility, although it will require moving hearings, which is a big deal. And it would have been easier to do that some time ago than on Monday morning. But I guess, yeah, we have thought about it in our office of Plan B would essentially be we kind of revert back to our, we'd have to reschedule some hearings and we'd have to do the best we can and kind of revert back to COVID times where we did hearings by Zoom, if it's appropriate to be done by Zoom, where people can just connect in and I can, as long as I have my laptop, I can do that anywhere I have internet. It doesn't have to be in the courtroom if there's an issue in the actual courtroom with connections and such. Other things that are difficult or important are going to be phone lines. If we're going to shut off our phone lines, we got people calling in, we need to be open for business in that regard. But some of the court stuff we can do remotely. But yeah, we're going to need, if there isn't a phone, if the phone doesn't work on Monday.
Phones will work.
Okay.
That I'm certain of.
So, in order to maybe discuss potential Plan B, what are your major concerns right now in terms of the elevator? And can the elevator not be used at all because it hasn't been quote-unquote certified, or what? What's the deal?
Yeah, right now, they're getting inspected between 9 and 10 today. And the issue is, they're supposed to install it end of February, or end of December. The guys got sick. They said, I'm waiting on parts. We have software that goes, the elevator's back to master control. They run the cameras in there and the speakers. So, missing that piece, we confirmed with everybody that it can be run manually up and down the secure elevator, so it can be used. We talked to numerous people and they assured us we're good to go. I'm talking to my team all week, so we will have an elevator.
Okay, so at this juncture, is there any more equipment that needs to be moved that we can use the manual mode to do and get going?
Yeah. Yes. There's a lot of.
Then let's coordinate that. I mean, Jeremy, can you make that happen?
I spoke to the elevator, or is it TK? TK elevator today too, because DA has some stuff that needs to get done. We just need to talk to them, and they will move it up for us today, because I explained there was quite a bit of stuff. The server's later this afternoon for you guys, but there's some printers and Yeah, you have
part of
stuff,
CCAP
so.
that has band loads of stuff that need to come
Yep,
out.
so as it sits right now, that TK elevator will bring the stuff up for us as we request it today.
And so they have to operate it?
They're the ones that are operating it at the moment. Now, the jail elevator, that one has always been a,
Yeah, the jail now.
I get different conflicting things too, is on whether it's down, whether it's not, until the inspection is
After
done.
inspection, they we should be able to use both elevators. without
Yep, and that, and again, I was told that that might not be until 12, 1, 2 o'clock today, but anytime there before that time, TK elevator will bring the stuff up for us.
And they're gonna be available? I mean, we have a lot of, we have, I mean,
Yeah,
we have high priority stuff like our CCAP equipment, right? The server and such.
Yep.
And then we have our office stuff. This was the time set aside for us to move our office stuff, as you know. And there's heavy things there, there's lots of books and things, and so that's lower priority, but I'm thinking if we have an elevator today, we're gonna be probably using it all day long.
Okay.
And are they available, or do we have to call them, or are they gonna just kinda?
So as it sits right now, I don't know where they're going to be. They're going to be at one of those two elevators, but this was information that I got 5 minutes before I headed over here because the DA was requesting something specific too, so that's
Yeah,
why.
and there's other offices that are, yeah, the DA's office is planning on moving.
Yeah,
I
they
haven't
have
talked
some-
to any of them to what their plans are, but I imagine they're.
No, I think we've moved most of their stuff. It's like a printer and some other stuff today that they needed. That's a vendor coming in to move that, so. And they're scheduled for 1 or 2 o'clock for that, but.
Do you think, Judge, that there's any merit in delaying some future hearings? The ones that are scheduled, especially for the 9th, would be difficult to move, but any future meetings, you kind of back them off a tad? You think that would be helpful
I don't
in
know.
order to get this done?
I don't think that's gonna help, because we
We already
have,
had us on the calendar.
Yeah, let's say we
because
have-
of the,
yeah, we didn't schedule it as our normal amount, but it's, January's getting pretty full.
Were you asking to move the January 8th date? or-
I'm just asking if there's any merit to looking at maybe not scheduling things.
Things are already scheduled.
But my assumption is, things come in with regularity to be scheduled.
Those are scheduled way later.
Yeah.
Things that are now have been scheduled for months.
Yeah, so January's pretty, it's full, I think it's as full as we're intending on having it,
Yeah.
knowing we're gonna give a little room, maybe a little more space between hearings, just to make sure that things
And
are
I
working.
think I can speak to maybe why you weren't informed on some of this stuff, is the attitude here is there was no wiggle room there, that we had to make things ready for the courts because things were scheduled. And we were dealing with things that popped up. There's stuff that's popped up in the last couple of days that I'm going to
couple
assume
months.
this committee wasn't aware of. We're being made aware of it today. And that's life, that's government by committee. So, again, thank you for the information and the concern, and we'll have to deal with it as we can with what we've got.
And that's what I guess I was trying to say at the beginning, is I'm just wanting to express my discontent on how the timing of everything went. And it's put us in a bind. We'll make it work, but I just wanted to let the committee know that this isn't how it was drawn up. And it's actually, it's been a little bit of a waste of time, because we're not able to do the things. We have time set aside, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, to move things.
And you couldn't move it.
And we have people in idling
Yeah.
because we're not able to move things and get in, so.
And these were the times that we were given, and the dates. So, I mean, it's not like you could have said, well, if they would have come to it a week ago and said, hey, we're running into trouble here, something's not working, maybe. But as far as, we were never given an update that this isn't working, the elevator's not gonna be available that day, I would have thought that they would have knew that you were gonna start moving some stuff in, or I think, like Dan says, I think communication might have been a little slacking both ways here, but hopefully everything will be on the up and up from now on.
So if I could, Chair, go back to the question at hand for Plan B. If we can get that elevator going and we can get all hands on deck, so to speak, so that we can get the stuff that you need moved, did I understand you have somebody coming to test the equipment then? Make sure everything's working right?
The CCAP, they're here on site right now.
Okay.
They installed at the clerk of court's office yesterday. They're gonna be installing in the courtrooms, the dark.
They're moving everything from our
Yeah.
courtrooms right now to over there. So if we're not able to do court over there, we can't have them move it.
That's it.
Yeah, they're set.
Once they move
They're
it,
unplugging
you
the-
can't,
Here, I
you
just
can't
tried
go
to
back.
help understand so we can help coordinate. I mean, this is the communication time, right? So if we're moving it today, is it gonna be able to be tested in time for Tuesday?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay.
Yep.
So we just gotta make sure that elevators, whoever's gonna manually help move they're there.
And if you
Even
had an
if
opportunity to get a
we have
run
to put
through,
off one of the other certifications to get that one done, I think we should do that.
have you had gotten a run through from Audio Architects yet on your stuff?
I
That-
should say that, I did myself.
And
We haven't
and I
had
did
the
a little
training
bit
with
too.
the other staff yet.
Okay.
The other thing is we can't do a full one because we need the microphones. They're taking the microphones from the old courtrooms and installing them in the new ones. And so we cannot do a full, they can't even balance the room for sound-wise until the microphones are installed. That's what they're working on right now.
Right, the plan
Literally.
is to do all the testing on Friday, as long as our server, we have no issues with that tonight. Because we're doing that, the switch over tonight. As
So,
long as
yeah.
that goes smoothly, we should be able to do our testing tomorrow.
Now, the original plan called for hearings between the jail and the new court suite, with them in the new jail. Is there any impediments to moving forward because they're in the old jail?
We've discussed that
Yeah.
with the sheriff, and we have that worked out.
Yep.
So there's a plan in place there?
Yep, we'll be fine there.
Okay.
So the server, though, I'm confused, is that moving tonight?
Yeah, it's a separate server than theirs, it's a CCAP server.
Okay,
Yes.
is that something, Tim, your team has to help with to get plugged in?
No.
But my team will be around.
Okay. You have people doing that?
They were here, yeah,
They're here,
yesterday
okay.
and today and tomorrow.
So tomorrow morning, they can be testing it, making sure it comes up
Yes.
and everything's working?
That's the plan, yep. So hence why I'm pulling my hair out that we don't have an elevator to make sure that they can get all the things they need to get done yesterday and today so that we can have it all tested and feel good about it before we start on Monday, so.
Jeremy, I think you got a good task today, so.
The stuff that's remaining is stuff that we just haven't helped move, and they are moving a lot of their own stuff too. And like I said, I know the elevator's been a point of contention for everybody, because even that, it was, sometimes even my staff wasn't made aware that it was getting shut down until later that day, because there was one thing, I know that there was one state inspector that came in and said we didn't need fire sprinklers in the shaft, and then another inspector came back 2 weeks later and said, no, you do need fire sprinklers in the shaft, so then they had to shut the elevators down again. Then that was what is it, the elevator people got pulled off, they went somewhere else, they, for whatever reason, they didn't come back until this past week. It's been a,
The
on
elevators have been
TV, I'm not gonna say
shenanigans.
what it's been, but it's been interesting, and frustrating.
You put those guys on notice, and they said we have nobody to send you guys. And I put a notice while I went elevator to, yeah, it's hard to have pull for those guys because you don't get my elevator till it gets inspected. It's just one of those special unique things that they drive the bus.
Well, and that's, I believe, what changed the occupancy inspection too, because the elevators got pushed out, because the original occupancy inspection was slated for December 19th a few weeks ago, but then the elevator shaft, fire sprinkler stuff, and the vendor for the elevators weren't here, so then the state couldn't do the occupancy inspection. So it all boils down to that TK elevator and everything else, but.
Originally, it was supposed to be done by the 28th of December, and that didn't happen. That's why we're on this predicament.
So there's been multiple issues, that's why it's gone to it, but again, it's, been frustrating for every department that's moving, including the ones that are helping to move those departments, so.
What needs to be done now to minimize the issue?
An elevator. Yep.
Okay.
If there's somebody there who's gonna, I don't care if there's somebody there running it, whatever, if we can use an elevator. And like I said, top priority is the CCAP stuff, to get that in.
Okay.
Secondary priority would be to move our office stuff, which we could always do at a later time, but we set aside this time to do that. And so, but if we got an elevator, we've been doing a lot of it up the stairs by hand, but there's some heavy stuff that we're not gonna do that.
Yep. Okay. We're in agreement, we know what needs to be done, and it's gonna happen today, right?
Yep.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thanks, Judge.
Anything else, Jeremy? We got
Whatever, probably on the next one.
discussion, possible action on building security policy. Tim handed out,
You've all read it, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Yeah, so you all read it. I just need you to approve this. There is one potential minor change. Susan, in section 4C, good Lord. I. We're not sure that court commissioners are allowed to pass through without screening. But other than that, she's pretty sure that legally we're sound with this document, right?
Yes, you know, if I may, I would like to do one last review of just for grammar and punctuation, kind of cleanup. But other than that, I think the primary issues between Tim and myself have been addressed. So this is largely ready to go.
And because we are in open session, if you have questions regarding particular security, we'd ask you to refrain from openly bringing that up in public. But for the most part, what this boils down to is that all staff will pass through the single entrance in the front. They can leave through the north exit to, or what we're calling the new quick trip door, but they cannot return through that door. All the badges will cease functioning on all other exterior doors. And then, of course, certain exceptions for court staff, DA, and the like, and then sworn officers are built into the policy as well.
I have a question on section 4CIII. There's a word blocked out in the second line. Should that last word on the first line be blocked out as well? Court commissioners.
Yeah, she just highlighted that when she did her review, because she wanted to check the statute to verify that court commissioners were allowed to enter without being screened. Correct?
Okay, so that is a highlight and not a delete.
Correct.
Okay.
It may be deleted. If I can't find it, I can find the authority for judges and district attorneys and ADAs.
Okay.
I cannot find the authority for commissioners yet.
So, pending Corp Counsel's last review on punctuation and spelling, I'll entertain a motion to adopt this policy as printed.
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion regarding acceptance of this policy? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thanks. A lot of work went into that. Possible, discussion, possible action on funding for courthouse renovation. Before we get started on the discussion on the funding, I personally would, before I can make a hopefully informed decision regarding funding, I need a reminder from Kurt as to where we are on this process with the bid for the.
Yeah, right now, we're trying to get contract documents completed by January 15th. Then from there, we'll take that out to bid for 3 weeks, then we'll come to you with their number, and give us a February meeting. That's what we said.
So we should have bid numbers to act on by the property committee's meeting in February.
Correct.
Okay. And we did have some vague ideas on how we're gonna pay for that, and we have some hope that that initial number has been significantly reduced. Can you remind us, Kurt, an idea of the reduction?
Right now, we're at like 479,000 right around that area.
So just shy of a $500,000 reduction.
Odds and ends small, electrical things coming through that I sit down and go with Ken and Jeremy and don't think you get this, so.
Yeah, and initially, we changed land management's location. That reduced the expected budget by some degree, as well as the changes in where people were going on the second floor.
Yeah, I think this new phase, probably had like a 3-way phasing plan. This new way that came up, might only have 1 phase, which is going to cut down duration of the phase, reduce the cost. That's what happened.
Okay.
So that was a contingency number he brought up, right? We're at 479?
That's, I'm close to that. I don't have the number right in front of me, but I'm right around that area.
And we're not done yet.
Correct. Like I said, that small one's coming through, and I sit down and go through with Tim, and Jeremy's like coming. So, you know, Jeremy looked at it, he goes, well, maybe I could do that with our guys, and that's how we address it.
That's contingency on the Justice Center.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
That's what's left out of the 1.5 of ARPA money? Is that what you're talking?
No.
No.
No, the
It's a-
contingency money that we had set aside for the new building in total.
Yeah, it was like 1.5 we started with.
Yeah. We were at like 700,000 in October, and we've gone down 300 and some thousand in
This is
3
the worst
months.
time you hit all the unknowns, what happens, it's a trickle down effect at the end. So this is common, that's why we carry the contingency, we do it. Everything comes together, and I was, oh, this doesn't work, we changed door lock here, something
Yeah.
doesn't work here, we have to add a switch here. It's just, you tie everything together, that's where you find where all the mistakes are.
Chair, this just goes to the question of, hey, what can we afford in terms of renovation?
Yep.
Well, we can afford a whole lot less, the more we end up taking away from the contingency fund. So another reason why we decided last month, let's lower that 25,000 to 5,000 on automatic and approval, so that we can, try to keep a rein on this.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be, anything that could be put off to the renovation, let's do then. If it's not absolutely mission critical to run that building, hold off. That is my suggestion. So,
I can see that.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and one of the problems we're running into that is that with subcontractors wishing to end their Samuel's Group experience, I can't get them to delay so that we can do just that. I don't have any interest in trying to get the TV studio set up in their new annex up in the new building. We don't have time. We were supposed to be able to occupy that building in November, and that's what all my estimates were based on, as to when we could get everybody ready to move in here on the 8th. And we haven't been able to get our equipment in that building till mid-December. So it's a little miracle where we're at. And I don't know how we can get these Justice Center people to hold off on, some of the stuff that we could maybe have a savings and get our feet underneath us and figure out if they're desperately trying to end their contract and get their primary responsibility done.
The comment on that, Kurt?
Yep. I know he's talking about AV, and he went straight with his guys, and I know they want to get out of here by the 11th. Well, they'll be staying until the owner gets all the training they need. We'll make sure that won't happen. Tim won't. If he's stretched out, we'll stretch them out. I hold their contract, so we can take care of that.
We'll work on that.
So this is not something we're going to be able to come to a conclusion on today, because we don't know what the price is going to be.
That's one thing that I'm working on for this coming Monday also. It's on there, yeah.
All right. My assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, is until we have a bid that's accepted, we can't make a final decision on how we're gonna pay for it, because we don't know what it's gonna be.
Correct.
All right.
Does anybody remember what the original bid for the very first renovation was? Was it?
I think it was
4
3 million.
3 million eight?
Something.
With $1.5 million contingency that it came to, was it? No, wait, the total bond was 43.5, if I'm not mistaken.
No. With the remodeling of the courthouse was the first bid we got.
I think it was 5.56.
Oh, okay.
That was with everything, okay.
Yeah, that's what the contingency.
That was with the contingency?
Yes.
Because the first bid was 4 something.
It would be nice to have the current contingency roll over to the renovation contingency.
Yes.
That's that's where my mind goes.
Yes. Anything else on that item
That's why I like the $5
at this time?
dollar.
Hearing none, set the date and time for the next meeting.
February 8th, is it? Or no?
February 12th would be the date, right?
The 12th, yeah.
Is that the second Monday?
Yes.
And be prepared to have something if needed, is that where we are, you think?
8:30, February 12th. Hearing no other discussion on that, that's when we'll meet again.
8 a.m.? We doing 8?
8:30.
8:30.
The 12th is when we got, about 8:30 and the 12th?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, we can make that.
And at that, I'll adjourn this meeting at 9:29 a.m. Thank you, one and all.